a long-time observer of United States soccer, joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before we get to the NFL stuff, Jason, I'll give you the floor. What is wrong with U.S. soccer on the men's side, obviously?
I think it's broken from the highest reaches of its bureaucracy, where certain people seem to assume they had jobs for life and it was their fiefdom and they could do as they wish, all the way down to the grassroots level, where despite proclamations that soccer's for everyone and soccer, is a great unifier, the soccer culture in America is decidedly divided. And there's been forever, really, in this country, a inability to identify and develop talent that can compete at an elite level, at a truly world-class level. And the dirty little secret is you don't have to do that to get by in CONCACAF, except now they can't even finish fourth in a six-team table. There's a lot that has to happen. First of all, MLS, they finally started these developmental academies, but all they really do is take the best players from the FC Delcos and the Pipelines and these established suburban youth teams that are already developing the players, and then they get them onto their team and whatever. But why don't you put your youth academy in Liberty City? Why don't you put your youth academy in the south side of Chicago? Why don't you put your youth academy in Patterson Park, where I grew up in Baltimore? Why don't you put a youth academy in Southie? Why aren't you running clinics for under 8 kids, under 6 kids? Why aren't you showing them that it's not just football and baseball that could get you a scholarship or could get you international fame? Christian Pulisic from Hershey. Sell the story of Christian Pulisic at the grassroots level to kids who might take soccer as something where if I apply my ambitions, it'll open up the world to me, and not as something I do if we can't get the field for football or baseball this week. You need to take the money out of the sport. The college system, the NCAA either has to do something where a kid like Jordan Morris, who's clearly too good for Stanford, but he doesn't want to go abroad to Germany, well, then let him start playing for the Seattle Sounders half the season or something. The idea that our best 18-year-olds are going to play soccer 3 months out of the year, while in any other country they'd already be in a competitive environment, in a real academy, playing against men 11 months out of the season, you can't close that gap. And then thirdly, MLS does the country no service when it says to a Michael Bradley at age 26 or 28, we know you have to compete every single day to keep your spot at AS Roma and stay in the match day squad and then stay in the reserve team if you're not doing well, or we're going to ship you out to the middle of nowhere, somewhere a level below in another league because you can't hack it here. Well, no, MLS, let's give him a soft landing spot. We don't have to wait for that point. Let's pay him more than he's worth now. Let's let him pick the team he wants to go to, and then he knows he's in the first 11 every time for club and country just by showing up. You take the competition out. There's no relegation in MLS, so most of the games don't matter. And if you brought over as a protected player, a designated player, and they're paying you all that money, Josie out the door, Michael Bradley, Clint Dempsey, Tim Howard, you're going to play. You're going to play whenever you want to play, as long as you feel like it. And the coach probably is going to hold you accountable on national team too. And because you're making money for MLS, you're going to play there.
So in other words,
that paradigm needs to be broken.
So so there's no answer. What you just said was as intelligent and as cogent an analysis as well as a roadmap. Who's going to do that? What
has to happen now is Sunil Gulati and Dan Flynn and the people who have been the puppet master for years need to get the hell out of Soccer House in Chicago. They need to bring in Tab Ramos and every other youth coach, under 17, under 20. They need to bring in Phil Knight. They need to bring in Ambev, because I guess Budweiser isn't really an American cup. They're owned by Ambev. Their 5 biggest sponsors are Gatorade, and they need to chart a blueprint to actually make soccer the sport of the urban park, of the back alley, of the plot of grass in the middle of nowhere. Because if they don't do that, this cycle will not change. And at the high end, they have to understand that, making MLS sort of the nouveau NASL, where if it's not going great for you in Europe, instead of applying your trade at the highest level, come here and make money to do less. That can't exist either. So if you're not doing it at the bottom, and the guys on the top are being rewarded for coming home from Europe years before they should. The fact that Jordan Morris isn't in Germany working his butt off in the Bundesliga, but knows I'll just go to Seattle and the money will be pretty good, and I'm straight, I'll still be on the national team. Jurgen Klinsmann brought up a lot of uncomfortable truths. Jurgen Klinsmann had a lot of flaws. I would prefer Jurgen Klinsmann as a technical director and not my manager, but the problem was he shook them to their core. And then one more thing I want to say, because I have this bully pit here.
Go for it, Jason.
the borderline jingoism that went on in this federation, the idea that German nationals who were born in Germany but have American parents, they don't like the crest as much as us. And when they threw Klinsmann out, and you had Tim Howard making comments like that, and Abby Wambach and Sunil Gulati and others seemingly condoning it, because I don't remember those people being suspended, and the idea was like, oh, well, it's because Fabian Johnson isn't a real American, and Timmy Chandler's not a real American. John Anthony Brooks isn't a real American. So they don't want it as bad. None of them were on the pitch for that disgrace last night. If anything, they should have gone with more dual nationals, because the fat cats who go to MLS and don't play in the Bundesliga and don't play in even the English Championship or the English Premiership, they're the ones who got it easy. They're the ones who let the country down.
Jason Canfora of CBS Sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's turn the page here for the few minutes we have left to American football, if we can. Did you have dinner with Colin Kaepernick last week?
I did not have dinner with him, but I did hang out with him for close to 3 hours in New York on Saturday night.
So let's hit the storylines that we hear about him. Does he want to play football?
Badly.
Okay. Is he in football shape?
He looked it to me, and from some videos and pictures I've seen, and talking to his trainer and looking at his daily regimen, which includes an Uber from New York City to a remote location in Jersey at 4 a.m. every day so he can get his work in before that park gets crowded, so he can throw a couple hundred balls and then come back to the city and then work out for a couple of hours and then go uptown to Harlem and mentor kids in after-school programs. He looked pretty good to me.
Would he take a second, third-string gig in the NFL?
He just wants a workout, Rich. He told me, like, I understand if I'm this distraction and if they don't want to bring me in their building on a Tuesday like everybody else, I'll get myself to a high school field nearby. Just let an evaluator tell me I can't compete with TJ Yates and Brandon Whedon and these guys who teams now have to go to in a dire strait. And if they see me as a football player, then I would hope to get the opportunity to go in front of an owner and present myself and make him comfortable with me. And then I just want to play football. It's just about he can't fill out the job application, right? You want to go work at J. Crew, you work and you fill an application. You want to get a job in the NFL this time of year, you got to get a workout on a Tuesday. No one will give him that opportunity. The Tennessee Titans didn't even entertain it.
But if prior to making a sale at a J. Crew, the national anthem had to be played and you sat for it, the J. Crew folks might fire you, Jason. So my question is what would be his figurative stance should he get the job again?
I think that would have to be discussed with an owner. I mean, and he gets that. He gets that he's not, going to be the same case as everybody else. He's hoping that by keeping his head down, by focusing on his two vocations, football and those advocating for those who maybe don't have a voice or who don't have the same opportunities as everybody else, that at some point the need for football will allow him to be evaluated as a football player. And if he passes that test, then he would love to talk to owners. He would love to get an opportunity one-on-one to sort of share where he is and where he's going and, to work with them. But I guess the assumption has been the football has to come first. And to this point, he talked to John Schneider, he talked to Pete Carroll, he's talked to John Harbaugh, but that's been the extent of it.
A couple more minutes here left with Jason Canfora. And obviously, though, the conversation, it's not even a conversation. The argument has no longer been set as to what Colin Kaepernick was trying to draw attention to. It's essentially now been categorized by the president as you stand for the flag, and if you don't, you are against it, and you're against all of us who are patriots, and you're not, and you're SOBs, et cetera. So the league is having a meeting next week with ownership. Has something been decided already? What is going on behind the scenes here?
No, I mean, there's several camps here, and obviously this has become such a divisive issue, and people are framing it and reframing it to sort of meet their needs. But the bottom line is the NFL is a business, and if a president, quote unquote, only has 36 or 38% of the country behind him, plus another group of people who maybe don't believe with him politically, but who just want football to be their escape on Sunday. Now that's that's enough people to make you worried about attendance and ratings and sponsorships. So there's some people who are with Trump and just say everybody should stand, it shouldn't be an issue. There's some owners who feel like their players should have the right to do that, but sort of at what cost. There's some who aren't sure. And there's the league who's trying to bridge this gap by creating this ongoing conversation with players to say, we will invest assets, time, money, ourselves into your outreach in communities, specific grassroots efforts. Malcolm Jenkins and trying to criminal justice reform, or going to Capitol Hill, or riding with police officers, or helping doing community policing. We're going to support all that, but sort of the rub would be we'd like for this 90 seconds on Sundays not to be a point of sort of demonstration or protest. I don't know how you get uniformity. I can't even barely say the word.
Unity on that.
Among that many players, right? And does it come as some would want to do the carrot, and there's some owners who just want to do the stick, and they want to have a vote and come out of this meeting saying you either stand or we're telling you right now we're going to fine you, suspend you, sit you, or whatever. I can't tell you what the outcome will be. My suspicion from the people I've talked to is it's somewhere in the middle and more along the lines of we're going to reinforce the idea that we can do these things that are in the game day manual. We really don't want to do them, and we're going to give you concrete things that we're going to do in the community for you, and we're going to hope this thing sorts itself out.
What about, and 1 minute to go, what about doing what the NBA does, allow the guys to wear whatever they want to wear, make whatever statements they want to make before the game? And I understand that what they're currently doing right now does not and remotely equate to what is a fashion statement. But what about that? And some sort of compromise in the middle here, as opposed to just some fiat that might get the players outraged, and thus a lot of fans.
Right,
too,
and I don't think it's going to come down in that extreme manner. But I mean, we've seen what they're doing now with easing what you're going to be able to put on your sneakers and stuff like that. That's a conversation that people at Park Avenue are open to having. I guess I just don't know that they're going to come out of that meeting with sort of a concrete policy. I suspect it reads more like a mission statement that still does have some open-ended parts to it.
Jason, great chat on both football, international, and domestic. Thanks, brother.
My pleasure, brother. Anytime.
At Jason Lock and 4, CBS Sports Insider.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you liked some of that, get some more of that on the Rich Eisen Show app. Follow all the information you see right here on the Rich Eisen Show.